What if the most powerful nation on Earth did not exist just a few centuries ago? What if the country that dominates global politics, technology, finance, and military power today began as a fragile group of distant colonies on the edge of a vast and unknown continent? And what if the rise of that nation would reshape the destiny of the entire world? This is the story of the United States, a story of exploration, revolution, ambition, conflict, and power. To understand how America became the most influential nation of the modern era, we must go back far beyond presidents and wars, to a time before the country even existed. Long before Europeans arrived, the land we now call North America was already home to millions of people. For thousands of years, indigenous civilizations flourished across the continent. From the vast plains of the interior to the forests of the east and the deserts of the southwest, diverse cultures developed complex societies. Some built massive earthwork cities. Others created long trade networks connecting distant regions. The Mississippian civilization, centered around the city of Cahokia near the Mississippi River, became one of the largest urban centers in North America centuries before European contact. In the southwest, the ancestral Pueblo peoples built stone cities carved into cliffs and desert landscapes. These societies developed agriculture, trade, astronomy, and spiritual traditions long before the modern concept of America existed. But the arrival of Europeans in the late 15th century would change the continent forever. In 1492, Christopher Columbus reached the Americas, opening the door to centuries of exploration and colonization by European powers. Spain was the first empire to establish large settlements in the Americas. Spanish explorers moved through Florida, the Southwest, and the Gulf Coast. Soon, other powers followed. France explored the vast interior and the Mississippi River. Britain began establishing colonies along the eastern coastline. By the early 17th century, English settlers had founded permanent colonies in places like Jamestown and Plymouth. Life in these early settlements was harsh. Disease, hunger, and conflict threatened survival. But the colonies slowly expanded. Agriculture, trade, and immigration fueled growth. Over time, 13 British colonies developed along the Atlantic coast. Though they remained under British rule, these colonies gradually formed their own identities. By the mid-18th century, tensions between the colonies and Britain began to rise. After the costly 7 Years' War, the British government imposed new taxes on the colonies to pay its debts. Colonists protested. They argued that taxation without representation was unjust. The conflict escalated. Boycotts, protests, political resistance. Then, in 1775, violence broke out. The American Revolutionary War had begun. Colonial militias faced one of the most powerful empires on Earth. At first, victory seemed impossible, but the colonists were determined. With support from France and other European rivals of Britain, the revolutionaries slowly gained momentum. In 1776, the colonies made a bold declaration. They announced their independence. The United States of America had been born. After years of war, Britain finally recognized American independence in 1783. A new nation now existed, but it was fragile. The young country struggled with political instability, economic hardship, and internal divisions. To create a stronger system of government, American leaders drafted a new constitution. Adopted in 1787, the Constitution established a federal system that balanced power between national and state governments. It also created the presidency, Congress, and the Supreme Court. This framework would shape the American political system for centuries. Yet the nation's expansion westward brought new conflicts. As settlers moved across the continent, indigenous nations were pushed from their lands. Many Native American communities were forced to relocate through violent policies and broken treaties. At the same time, another issue threatened to tear the young country apart: slavery. In the southern states, millions of enslaved African Americans were forced to work on plantations. The moral, political, and economic tensions surrounding slavery divided the country deeply. By the mid-19th century, those tensions erupted into war. In 1861, the United States plunged into the Civil War. Northern states fought to preserve the Union. Southern states formed a separate confederacy. The conflict became the deadliest war in American history. More than 600,000 people died. When the war ended in 1865, the Union was preserved and slavery was abolished. But the wounds of the conflict would shape American society for generations. In the decades that followed, the United States expanded rapidly. Railroads crossed the continent. Industries grew. Immigration surged. Cities exploded in size. By the early 20th century, the country had become a major economic power. Then, the world descended into global war. During World War I, the United States joined the Allied powers and helped tip the balance against Germany. But it was the Second World War that truly transformed America's global role. After the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the United States entered the war with massive industrial and military power. American factories produced enormous quantities of ships, aircraft, tanks, and weapons. By 1945, the United States emerged victorious alongside its allies. But the war ended with a terrifying new technology: the atomic bomb. The United States became the first country to use nuclear weapons in war. In the decades that followed, the world entered a new era. The Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union competed for global influence. Military alliances formed. Nuclear arsenals grew. Proxy wars erupted in different parts of the world. From Korea to Vietnam, American forces became involved in conflicts tied to the global struggle between competing political systems. Yet the Cold War was not fought only through military power. It was also a race in technology, space exploration, and economic influence. In 1969, American astronauts landed on the Moon. The United States demonstrated technological capabilities that amazed the world. Meanwhile, American culture spread globally through film, music, and media. But the country also faced serious internal challenges. The civil rights movement fought against racial segregation and discrimination. Protests erupted against the Vietnam War. Political scandals shook public trust. Despite these tensions, the United States continued growing as an economic and technological giant. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the Cold War ended. For the first time in modern history, the United States stood as the world's sole superpower. American influence extended across global finance, military alliances, and technological innovation. Yet new challenges emerged. In 2001, terrorist attacks on September 11th shocked the nation. The United States launched wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. These conflicts reshaped Middle Eastern geopolitics for decades. Meanwhile, globalization and the digital revolution transformed the global economy. American technology companies led breakthroughs in computing, the internet, artificial intelligence, and space technology. Today, the United States remains one of the most powerful countries on Earth. Its military capabilities span the globe. Its economy drives international markets. Its universities and research centers produce innovations that shape modern life. But the country also faces complex challenges: political polarization, economic inequality, rising global competition, new geopolitical rivalries. The story of the United States is still being written. From ancient indigenous civilizations to a modern superpower, the rise of America has reshaped world history. And the question now is not how the United States became powerful. The question is what role it will play in the next chapter of global history.